now we're going to take a close look at Miami and Madrid, two fabulous cities, as we all know, but they've also become thriving hubs for startups backed by community collaboration. So to discuss this a little bit further and to find out everything we can, please give a warm welcome to South Summit's very own Maria Benhumea, founder and chairman at South Summit, who is the moderator for this session, Moshi Mana, founder and chairman at Mana Common, Martin Vervasky, serial entrepreneur and investor, and Alex Oxenford, co-founder at Alpha Capital. Please give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope you are enjoying these days. Well, I'm so lucky to be here sitting with these three people. They are the most of the ecosystem. They really know what is this, and they really know it not only like founders, like entrepreneurs, like great, I cannot say unicorns, more than that, but also like investors. And well, we are going to talk about Madrid and Miami ecosystems. And well, Moishi is from Miami. Alec is from Argentina, but is from Argentina, is living in Brazil. And Martin is worldwide. Martin is Argentina, but you know very well, Martin is Madrid, is Spain, is New York, is Miami, is worldwide. And I think it's what we are. But I think that we are very lucky because we are going to talk about two great ecosystems and two really emerged ecosystems. I'm going to start with you, Martin. What do you think about these two ecosystems nowadays?
Well, I am glad I was invited to this panel. I want to thank you for this amazing event overall, which is this combination of intellectual activity and phenomenal parties, of which I'm recovering one of Leandro's party last night. So I'll try to make sense out of what I say. But I'm glad I was invited to this panel because in the last 10 years, our family has lived between Miami 2014 to 2018 and then Madrid. And so I've seen how both cities started from a very low place, I would say, in the world ecosystem of tech and have risen like stars in somewhat unexpected ways. But because we have Moshe here, I am going to focus more on Madrid, since you're the expert of Miami. And I will share what I saw in Madrid when I came to Madrid in the 90s and how it evolved. So when I came to Madrid in the 90s, being an entrepreneur was extremely rare. And I was an entrepreneur already coming from New York City, and I was ready to build companies like Jastel and Ya.com and the companies, the unicorns we built back then. And there was very, very, very little competition from Spanish entrepreneurs. And and Madrid looked to me like everybody was a relative of everyone else. It was a city that had very little diversity, and it was a city that had tremendous homogeneity and entrepreneurship, or the desire to be very successful in your endeavor of technology, was almost poorly regarded, to the point that I learned the word that the Spaniards use called pelotazo. Mm-hmm. And when we built Ya.com for 38 million and sold it 18 months later for 550 million to Deutsche Telekom, a journalist asked me, "Are you happy with this pelotazo?" Right? And I said, of course, I'm very happy, because coming from Argentina, I thought pelotazo sounded to me like golazo, un golazo. So I said, yeah, of course I'm happy, pelotazo. And then everybody said, pelotazo is a terrible thing. And I was like, how is pelotazo a terrible thing? We raised money from investors. We became the #2 website in Spanish. We sold it for more than 10 times the value in 18 months. How is that a bad thing? And my Spanish friends were saying, well, making money too quickly is a bad thing in Spain, okay? Your grandparents had to make the money. Maybe your parents. Or maybe you make it after 30 years and you hide, like Amancio Ortega. And I was like, how can this be the case? How can success not be celebrated? How can I be stigmatized as the man of the pelotazo, self-confessed pelotazo? And then the industry started changing, especially with the crisis of '08. So the crisis of '08 or '09 left a lot of people without work. And it was like a wake-up call for Spain, because it was like, si la alternativa es el paro, emprender es barato, okay? That's what I said publicly, and everybody started quoting it at the very beginning of Twitter. And so people started saying, well, I don't have a job, I might as well start a company. That crisis was the best thing that ever happened to the tech ecosystem, because people lost their very cozy jobs that they have. And for the first time, the Spanish people were hungry and were failing, which I think failure, which is something Argentines we know very well because we lived in a mostly failed country, the failure is an incredible motivation for tech success, right? Doing poorly is a great motivation to want to do well. If you do well, you have less motivation to do a little better, right? And so what happened there was that 08 or 9, 10, what you need to have an ecosystem which is hungry people, VCs. There were no VCs, but then a generation of VCs started. The many venture capital funds were started then. And then, of course, you need great universities, which that also helped the rise of Instituto de Empresa and other universities. So in the end, if you think about Silicon Valley, it's universities, Sand Hill Road, so it's Stanford and Berkeley, Caltech, Sand Hill Road, which are the VCs, and then entrepreneurs, which are, half of them are foreigners who come to America with tremendous desire of doing well. And so that's what happened in Madrid. And then Madrid rose thanks to that crisis. And it was never again the lethargic place that it had been before. And then many people started thinking about pelotazo in a different way and started thinking that maybe doing well quickly and generating a lot of jobs and helping Spain and helping yourself was not such a bad thing. So that's my story of Madrid. And maybe, Moshe, you can continue with the one of Miami, which I'm sure is fascinating.
Good. We respond to what you said. How is it about taxation? Because taxation and it's very important in every country to make it.
Yeah, well, taxation is a very interesting point, because taxation and the policy towards the pandemic of Madrid was phenomenal for Madrid. That Madrid was able to come with a government, the government of Madrid compared to the government of Barcelona. The government of Madrid understands that jobs don't come from the government, they come from the private sector, and they try to make it as easy as possible. I mean, you still, of course, pay a ton of taxes. I pay, I think, 45% plus 27% capital gain. So this is not a Portugal, or this success was not driven by taxes, but still in Barcelona they even charge more. Now, of course, the socialist government put the tax on wealth, which has been terrible for the ecosystem, but I hope this tax is eliminated by the new government, which I hope will not be socialist. But in the end, what helped Madrid also was the freedom that there was here on the pandemic, very similar to Miami. Like, all of Europe was shut down, and the people here had masks, vaccination, but everything was open. And it was fantastic. People from France, from the north of Europe, they were all from Catalonia, they were all coming to Madrid so they could go out and party, okay, and see their friends, because the city was not managed by idiots, and it worked out very well.
And Moshi, tell us about the Miami ecosystem, because Miami is Miami. I think we all want to go to Miami, isn't it? We all want to go to Miami. But before we thought about Miami, the place to be for pleasure, to great life, and so on. But I remember not many years ago, when started in California, things, not more complicated, but much more expensive or whatever. No? And the mayor of Miami wrote a tweet and said, "Miami is open. What do you need?" And I think that was absolutely amazing, because the ecosystem started in Miami, and people from California, Silicon Valley, and other places in the United States went to Miami, and Miami started blooming in the ecosystem. How do you see it?
Okay. Before I go to Miami, because I got to tell you something, Martin. I really was very happy to meet you, okay? Because meeting people like you, it's very inspiring, like you guys here. It's very inspiring, and to see the goodwill and the energy to do, to create, to connect, and so forth. So I really enjoyed also talking to you the last 2 days, and I think you're doing a great job in the space that you're doing. And I was thinking, with people like you, the golden age of Spain will come back, with people, and if more people like you will come here, so.
Thank you.
So I just want to compliment you, so. Anyway, let's talk about Miami and really what happened in the last 10, 12 years. Miami, historically, it's been a tourist destination.
Yeah.
It was created by Henry Flagler by extending the rails to Miami with the vision to make it a tourist destination. And then Maurice Ferré, in the mid-70s, he declared it as the capital of Latin America. He was trying to make it happen and bring banks and bring businesses from Latin America. But somehow this was the beginning of everything else in the mid-70s, 80s. And then I would like to say, when I came back, I really identified the possibility that Miami represent. And me as an investor, entrepreneur, a person who built many businesses in all aspects of life, if it's tech, fashion, art, entertainment, logistics, I had the experience what need to be done to change the city. And when I came 2009 to Miami, I really asked myself what I don't see wrong. What do I see wrong? What don't I see here? This is the sitting right between two economies, Latin America, North America, 700 million people, 400 million people. A city should be thriving business-wise. But when I started with Wynwood, because I used to go to Miami, and South Beach was really getting jaded and harassment, and really there's no reason to be there in South Beach, and there was no culture. Really, I'm sorry to say it, diversified community, but there is no cultural events and culture embedded like that you see in Spain. And I figured we got to build a cultural hub in Miami, and this was Wynwood. So I started really assembling 45 acres. It was a very destroyed area, crime infested and so forth. And I said, after I assembled it, I said, here we're going to build the cultural hub of Miami. And we're going to move South Beach from Miami to Wynwood. People told me, you're crazy. I say, watch me. Because I know I've done it in the meatpacking. My experience was in the meatpacking in New York City. When I went there, I was the first one, and I put the milk studios And I saw what impact we created in the meat packing and how we changed the meat packing. So when I assembled, then I started really, what do we need to do? I was, paying literally $2 million a year, $3 million a year to create events. Fashion event, wow, fashion event Miami, music event, any kind of event that we could have done, And the street arts that we were doing, I commissioned artists to do street art, and it started getting the vibes, I was paying them practically to come and play there and to do. It started the whole vibes over there. So once I really got also, I was putting my feet more in Miami, getting to know more Miami. People ask me for jobs and this and that, and I look at them, I said, make no sense, I mean, there's no jobs here, most of the jobs is really waitressing and hotels and this kind of jobs. It doesn't have this strength of jobs, Then I came up with the idea to create a global trade hub to facilitate the trade between the Far East, Latin America, and North America. I said, okay, because business, B2B, used to be all physical. Then it went all digital. But to do business, you need face-to-face. So I said, okay, we're going to build a whole global hub where we have showrooms from Latin America, from Latin America and China. Showrooms where people show the merchandise or the businesses or whatever, manage the business, banking and legal. And people don't need to fly to China, people don't need to fly to Brazil or to Colombia or any of this stuff. And I got 10 million square feet designed for that, and we were working with government, signing agreement and a lot of energy and so forth, and then come Trump with America First, and this is really like totally destroyed me as a person and a Jewish man, because we experienced the Holocaust, and we know this demagogue way takes us, and we know it's us and them, and they never taken advantage of us in the international agreement we signed, and all this demagoguery that that he started with. So, but while I was doing it, I was getting to know more Latin America and visiting technology companies in Latin America, in Silicon Valley. The chances to raise money was slim to none. Who is going to come to Colombia? Who is going to come to Panama? Who is going to come to any of these countries to invest in technology? And in the Silicon Valley, when they took them, put them in a back room, not important, don't worry about it, we got better to show you. So I said, okay, we're going to bring all these countries into one corridors.
Yeah.
Into one place, because you need to provide the physical element to create collaboration.
Yeah,
and you need to create this corridor, live, work, play. And the best place for live, work, play, we can build big buildings, and there was infrastructure in place, train and everything was Flagler District, Flagler Street. So Flagler Street was very dilapidated, still dilapidated. And when I started acquiring, why is it like this? Every owner was 80, 90 years old, and 25 kids own a building, and nobody wanted to change anything. I said, okay, I'm going to buy everything. Buy. 80 properties, 80 building I bought, based on an idea. I had an idea. And while I'm doing all of this thing, I was working with Mayor Suarez at the time. He was also a commissioner. And we talk about Tech Miami and what to do, how to do. I was running and campaigning to Tech, and people were laughing at me. Tech in Miami, you crazy, you lost your mind. I went to meet Alibaba folks in China, the top management. Sorry, can you show us where Miami is on the map? So this was a very hard, like pushing a stone uphill. It was very difficult sell. And then come the pandemic. And everybody say, oh, because of the pandemic. It's not because of the pandemic. It was ready. It was oil all over the floor. This needed the match. And then they start the movement. And when they start the movement, nobody could stop it. People came from everywhere, from New York, from Silicon Valley, from LA, from Europe, people came. This was like a whole, I call it the Forrest Gump syndrome, when first 5 comes and then another 10, another 100, and then the rest is history. But we are the beginning of the whole movement. And at the time also, when I was doing all of this stuff, I formed what's so-called the Manatech. The Manatech is a platform to provide a soft landing for businesses, for technology companies coming to Miami, because people, when they cross oceans, it's very difficult for them. Simple things, taxation, hiring, people, connection, relations, and stuff like this. So this was the origination of the Manatech, really a platform for the city. And then a couple of years ago, we partnered with Base Miami, with Charlie and his team, and he's added another dimension, and we've been doing a great job. My facilities are today available for all these technology companies coming for education, connection, relations, raising money, anything that they need. I made a lot of my facilities today, it's for free, really. It's guys, come, enjoy, connect, whatever we're doing. We create a lot of events. Same thing we do with fashion. So the vision that I really been really putting more and more and more, make America one. We don't need Latin America, we don't need North America, one America. The manufacture should be in Latin America, it should not be in China or in Vietnam, because this is where the more I travel over there, the more I see how poor they are. There's plenty of land, plenty of resources, plenty of cheap labor.
We need to connect more.
And America needs to wake up. If America doesn't wake up, it's going to lose its power in the world. Today we have Brazil is going together with the BRICS, with China and Russia.
Yeah.
So the manufacture should be there, the agriculture should be there, the exchanges. What made America great is going out
Not
there.
only America, we are going to open mind.
Of course, but let me finish it. Let me finish. What made America great is really going out there and investing and doing the exchanges. That's what made America great. Now, what we're doing in Miami, really, basically, it's a bridge to Latin America, because Miami is sitting between the two continents. And bringing Europe is essential. Bringing Israel is essential. So we work in bringing Israel. Instead of going to Silicon Valley, we're going to New York. It's much more like Tel Aviv, warm weather to come there, and we work on it. So now, bringing Europe, France, we're working with France very diligently, very closely. Madrid, Miami would be perfect to bring Miami and Madrid to work together. And I think Madrid can really help a lot Miami to become what it needs to become. This is something that is so important, a social impact.
Yeah, of course.
I see the job is a social impact. We can change so many people's life in Latin America.
That's true.
That they need it. So I said we're going to build the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure of Latin America for Miami. It doesn't mean we're going to move our companies, but definitely we can bring investors, relationship, ideas people can put together. This is what
that's true, Moishi.
To promote.
Maybe we can ask also Alec about what we are talking, that is really very interesting about Miami and so on. And Alec knows very well all Latin America, because he's living in different countries, also Miami, and he built one of his unicorns here in Spain. No? And how do you see the development of these two ecosystems? Because I remember last year, do you remember, Martin, when we were talking about the Spaniards, and you said, I'm really very happy, because not very few years or whatever. When you, in the States, you talk about Spaniard, it was like second league. But now, they are considered really very keen people. So, Alec, what do you think about the development of this? And what you said, Moishi and Martin, the same, how do we build together? Madrid is the capital of Spain. Miami is the capital of the Latin America. So how can we work together? How can we develop together? And I think that we have a different way of doing things.
Yes. Thank you, Maria. Now, first, thank you very much for the invitation, and I think it's important to realize that the job you've been doing so well in the last few years by creating South Summit has a lot to do with the ecosystem here in Madrid. The fact that you actually managed to create a space where the different players actually convene and are looking forward to the next year and come from different places, it's fantastic. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, I think maybe the first comment I'll make is how similar Madrid and Miami are in several dimensions, because I think that there's both are taking advantage of a few trends that are happening in the world, which are quite relevant. And I think when those things happen, you have to take advantage of them and do more of them. For example, first one, remote work, right? People can move, don't necessarily need to stay in the places where they were. People from New York and from San Francisco mostly realize that it's okay to move temporarily, partially, etc. to Miami. Lots of them, senior people. Lots of people from Latin America moved also to Miami, but many came here to Madrid. The reason I say they're similar is many of my friends who actually moved out of Argentina because of the crisis there, the two places they were considering moving were Miami and Madrid.
Yeah.
Because out of the whole planet, people who could move anywhere. And the two cities, out of all the possible cities, were Miami and Madrid. Miami and Madrid both actually have 7 tech unicorns. It's the same 7 in each one of the two cities, which is interesting. You know, both have a vibrant cultural scene. You have Art Basel in Miami and everything that implies. You have Arco and the classic museums here in Madrid with all of that, movement. You have a fair weather. You have a very good airport hub, like you have in the airport in Miami is very well connected with Latin America and Europe. The airport in Madrid is the gateway to Europe for all of Latin America and many other places. So very, very similar in many dimensions. So what are the differences that I see? One key difference is where they are within the bigger context. So Miami is in the US. The fact that it's close to New York or closer to New York, it's easy to go to New York, I think is relevant. Also California, but I think particularly in New York, that axis, New York, Miami, is very intense,
yeah.
And it works very well. Madrid is in Europe, and that has all kinds of advantages there. I mean, one disadvantage I see for Madrid, for being in Europe, is that the overall regulatory ecosystem in Europe is not very, very conducive to building large tech companies. Let me give it 2 stats. Out of the 50 largest tech companies in the world, only 3 are European. 3 of the top 50, which is strange because in any other dimension, GDP, whatever, Europe is similar, sometimes bigger than the US, but only 3 tech companies come from Europe. Now, why is that the case? There's not a lot Madrid can do about that. But, for example, if you want to fire a senior engineer, it costs 10 times more when you add everything included, not only the severance and all that, but the time you need to take it, all the restrictions. There's a study, in France it's 15 times more. So there's inflexibility in the system, which makes it hard. Peter Thiel, in a very interesting book called 0 to 1, he talks about clusters that are great at generating companies from 0 to 1, like creating them. And I think both Madrid and Miami, and in particular Madrid, change in that way and are creating lots of new companies. There's venture capital now, there's new companies coming up. It happens. There's the 7 unicorns. However, when you look at the scale of the unicorns, for example, compare them to Latin America, the largest tech unicorn in Latin America, roughly 100 billion. With Mercado Libre. It goes up and down, whatever, but let's say 70 to 100 billion. Look at the largest tech unicorn out of Madrid, 3 to 5 billion. That's a 20x difference.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. So I think that the other thing that Peter Thiel says is, what is really hard is 1 to 100. So 0 to 1, essential, because you need to create the bases and lots of them, and that's fantastic. It's happening. There will be, I don't know, some number by 2030, maybe 20 or 30 unicorns coming out of Madrid. It's fantastic. But I think the whole continent, and maybe Madrid can influence that, needs to start thinking about how to get to that 1 to 100, about the really big ones. Because you've got the market, you've got the talent, you've got the entrepreneurs, you just don't have the framework. They actually end up moving outside. Miami, I think, on the other hand, has proven to be extremely receptive. It's got some it's unclear how many of the people actually move to Miami, might go back to New York. Some of them have already moved back. So there's other issues there. But I think both cities will be very likely in the top 5 list of most attractive places to live for creative, innovative, wealthy people in the next 20 years. So, and as you guys said, I think thinking of bridges between the two cities, I think make a lot of sense. Their DNA is similar. There's a lot of freedom. You breathe freedom in both places. You can be, we were there in a South Summit party yesterday, and we saw the diversity of people, how welcoming this place is to foreigners. That's fantastic. Same thing happens in Miami, You should do a lot more of that. Well, anyways, I threw out
That's great, Alec, and I agree absolutely. I think we have the talent, we have the will, and we are all go to get those bridges because the connection in between these two cities are incredible. So we go there, okay? Thank you very much, Alec. Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you very much, Moishe. We are run out of time.
Let me just say one thing. Okay, one more thing. Did you realize that Madrid and Miami start with the same name, MM?
That's
and then
very
we have
good. That's very good.
So, and let's do something. Madmami.
Yeah,
an infrastructure called Madmami.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Very well seen.
Thank you.